Right. So, would you like to introduce... Everybody knows me, of course, right? But would you like to introduce... Karin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Karin Seymour. I am Director of Client and Marketing at Sky Media.
Hello, Modha. I look after what we rather grandly call the Measurement Innovation Team at ITV.
Could they hear you? Is your mic on?
Can you hear me? Calling Orson.
Very good.
Reference for about 2% of the audience. There we go. Marvellous.
OK, so this... I mean, seriously, this is... It's always best to kind of say how this happened. There's been a project within ThinkBox for quite some while talking about outcomes. And a little bit like the sea flight discussion, we had it was just a real good coming together of Sky, Channel 4 and ITV to actually crunch out how could we make sea flight happen. And this, to all intents and purposes, is quite similar. So let's talk about, first of all, the why lantern? Why do we need this? Okay, so I tend to be on the what do we do to get it? Karin, you're right in the seat of why. Why do we need lantern?
Before I answer that, I'm just going to do a very quick what is lantern?
Yeah, fine. That's because I'm off message. That's what I should have asked Karin first. But you're too kind.
Not
Go
at all.
for it.
Not at all. But, I mean, for those that don't know in the room, lantern is, I suppose, sort of the opposite end of sea flight, really, because sea flight is where we as broadcasters have come together and are providing deduplicated reach, whereas lantern is very much about outcomes. And so what we are delivering, and there's been a lot spoken this morning about the importance of measurement and being able to understand what TV can deliver at all stages of a campaign. So lantern is brought together because it's really important. It's what we're hearing from our advertisers, and why we're doing it is people don't plan, clients don't plan just by sales house. They will plan TV, you know, they will plan social, you know, you plan by medium. So having the ability, you can use sea flight to plan for reach, but then having the ability to measure the outcomes cross broadcaster, so cross TV. It's linear at the moment, but watch this space. So this is our proof of concept. And then being able to help advertisers understand those all-important outcomes. So it's not just being able to measure stuff, it's but what do people want to measure, what are they looking to achieve from their campaigns, and being able to offer that and measure it.
Samir?
I might try the what and the why the other way around. So the why is, I mean, obviously you were all managing to stay awake during the origin discussion, but you know, that's essentially a victory lap for the platforms because they've already grown everywhere else. You know, the vast majority of media money is spent on outcomes. That is the thing that has won in the market, and that is the thing that advertisers have made very clear by voting with their wallets that they want. And Lantern is very much in that space. So it is about saying, OK, let's take a truckload of exposure data for one medium and map it to multiple outcomes. So, you know, if you were wondering why it has this particular logo, now you know. In the manner of star charts everywhere, you can see in the centre there will be a really rich set of online panel data that will gather all of the different online behaviours that they do, whether it's search or whether it's their TikTok views or whether it's the purchases that they do, all of that stuff. You know, we're busy surveilling ourselves with these things, so you know, you can pick up on that. And then what it does is we say, and this is why the conversation in Nice kind of really resonated, because companies like Sky have data centres that have remembered all of the ad exposures that all of the TVs that they look after have had to them going back years. So why don't we connect the two? So take a panel at its core, and then take all the online exposures, find the people who on the panel who also have those records of ad exposure, and you link the two things together. And then you can start to do, OK, this is not planet scale, right? This is not billions of users around the world, but it's big enough that you can then start to measure the impact of telly on those things. And the great thing about telly is it has a big impact. It just hasn't ever really had the measurement that it deserves. So Lantern's about doing that.
Very good. So what were our first steps? So the first steps of that was that Samir and I had a chat about it. This has been incubating in ThinkBox for quite some time about how we would do it. It's very much it was an ITV initiative from you, Samir. right?
Well, you know, the ThinkBox stuff was interesting because we were all around that table and all of us were doing little bits of outcome measurement here and there. You know, we all see the writing on the wall, we know where it's going. And it's hard because if you're grinding it out one advertiser at a time, you know, you've got to get the data into a clean room, you've got to do all these bits and pieces. You know, and Wayne in your place has been amazing at building that stuff out. But it's not easy. And then we were all sat kind of bemoaning our collective woes and thinking, well, hang on, could we not, what if we did this at scale? You know, what if it was a multi-outcome, multi-brand, multi-category thing? Then we haven't got to do this one at a time. We can just do it properly. And then you said, and then actually kind of getting that to happen, of course, you know, it's the old joke about how do porcupines mate, answer very carefully. Getting companies to, sorry, is that a really inappropriate joke now? I don't know. Anyway, too late. So, you know, how do you get companies that have historically had an interesting and complicated relationship to work together? And in the end, it comes down, I think, to not the sort of the corporate, commercial, grown-up layer, but the people who are kind of, I mean, you talk about yourself as a plumber, Jeff. You know, it's that side of things where you go, well, if you put that bit there, and I join that up to that, and we do that, and it kind of works. And you know, your thesis about the simplicity of, in fact, it was you who was doing that earlier this week, didn't you? The simplicity of TV buying, the need for that.
So if you like, we actually cover a lot of ground here, because Karin is the marketer. If you like, you're the specialist and the methodologist, and I'd end up doing plumbing, right? So I'm the person that says, tell you what, if you plug that next to that, plug that next to that, then that actually will come out in a data file that will actually surface what you need. Okay, so we had that conversation with Channel 4 ITV and the set-top box guys in Sky. Right, we got them together. We sorted out a plan, and then we launched in, I'm going to say it was late September at the Vision event.
Yes, September.
Right. Okay. Do you want to talk about? So we have a proof of concept that we're now working on. Do you want to talk more about the proof of concept, Karin?
Yes, so I think the most important thing is, I think it was the panel this morning, actually, before the break, where people say you can measure anything. There's so much stuff that you can actually measure. So we've got to make sure that we're measuring the right thing. So the first thing is getting not just the plumbing, but the lawyers across everything when you are moving a lot of data. And, you know, particularly at Sky, we are a subscriber business. We are very, very protective of our customer data, as we should be. So we got all of that in play. And now we are doing a proof of concept, which is taking this hypothesis, which is because we can track second by second views and impressions, we can track back to see what people have done. So we work with Measure Protocol, and we're looking back with campaigns to sort of show, is this right? Are we able to track? Can we measure it in the right way? And what's really brilliant is, yes, I do the marketing side of things, but I also spend a lot of time talking to the clients directly. And working with them, there's been so much interest in Lantern. So we have to work with advertisers, and we're inviting advertisers to get involved, because we have to make sure we're measuring the right thing. Going back to my point, there is so much stuff that we can measure. Are we measuring something that is going to be useful and helpful when planning campaigns and, more importantly, running businesses and driving business growth? So we're very much at that proof of concept part at the moment.
Right. In terms of those client conversations, did the thing come up about sort of short-term versus medium and that side of things?
Yes and no, in that clients, you know, they will do a plan. So I'm doing a branding campaign, I'm doing a performance campaign, but increasingly it's just blurred. I think, you know, you and I have talked about this before, how the industry, we love, particularly in sort of the trade press, we love a versus argument. You know, it's performance versus brand. It's this, but actually they just want to drive good business outcomes, but they want to be able to measure them in stages. So if I have a short-term result here, I'm more likely to achieve that longer-term growth. I think Kate said it earlier about her creative agency days. You know, if a TV ad worked, you could see it from day one. If it didn't work, you tried to justify it by saying, oh, it's building the brand, it'll come. So it's thinking like that. They know where the end point is, and it's just being able to sort of measure it along the way. So the conversations I have is, what are the business outcomes you want to achieve, and what are the milestones, and what are the points along the way that you want to measure? And that will be the short, that will be the medium, and that will be the long term. So
Yeah, no, I got it, because that's the thing. So we had a couple of, if I think of all the LinkedIn threads and stuff that went on, there was stuff that was, oh right, so is this like broadcasters doing Origin? Hopefully you're clear, it's not. It's the outcomes bit, which is actually where more of the money is, so let's focus on that. And the second thing is people sort of said, in fact, Mike Sainsbury, ASI, said, I mean, it's really good that you're doing it, but does that mean we've just given up? And what he meant was, is this only going to measure very short-term impacts? And the answer is no, because it's a panel. It's still a panel, you know, and so you can look at the impact not just in the minute or in the hour or in the day, but over time. And one of the things we'll be able to do with it, that I'm really excited about, because I'm a measurement geek, is doing things that are multi-brand and trying to understand and uncover some of the things that we think are true, or you know, tell each other in presentations about media plans, but that we don't really have brilliant proof for. So the first step is a baby lantern. So we're making a 2-year-old. So the POC, those of you who remember Luxo Junior, it's a brilliant bit of animation. The POC will be, it will cover 2 years' worth of data. So it'll be 2023 and 2024. And we will, you know, through various bits of tech and magic, will accumulate the historical outcome data and the behaviours for those people going back 2 years. And let's be clear, this is a baby POC, still going to be the same size as Bob. Then the bigger one will come once we understand how this thing works. Once we know how it behaves, once we know how it plays out, once we know how to get the lawyers to play nice, all of those things, it's sort of flushing out the pipes, back to the plumbing, get it working, get some early results for, you know, there'll be stonking campaigns that happen over the past couple of years, and this is where we're saying to advertisers, give us the data for those, and we'll go and look for them in the sort of the mind of this 2-year-old. That's getting weird now. Anyway. And then after that, we move on to sort of building a bigger version.
Yeah, and we face that also as part of the collaborative piece, to get around, you know, what Sky's effect is on it and what ITV's and Channel 4's effect on it. So all intents and purposes, from that point of view, it'll be together. Right? The POC will be the effect of TV, the effect of linear TV on people watching, and then what do they do afterwards. It's not an ITV thing or a Channel 4. You won't be able to drill down to that point in the first instance. So again, it's part of, we were talking about a lot of collaboration. In order to get through these things, you have to collaborate and you have to agree exactly what you want to do with it. So we thought we'd take the C-Flight model. The C-Flight model still doesn't drill down into the granularity of ITV, Channel 4 and Sky within your campaign. So we thought we'd do the same thing as we did before. So at least that gets us to a point where we can actually prove out, is there a connection? Well, we know this. I mean, we absolutely know there's the connection because we all watch TV and we see what happens to web traffic when people watch linear TV. Okay. By the way, it is just linear TV within the proof of concept. There may well be, of course, I think it would be silly to confine it to that. Okay, but the POC just is linear TV because that's difficult enough to do as it is. And once we've learned how to do that, hopefully it may go further. Okay, so, gosh, we're a little bit ahead of time.
Well, we've got a couple more bits.
Have you got some more slides?
Well, no, there's a couple more bits we could cover. So there's the
genuinely
timings.
Chaotic. I had no idea.
All right. Like chaos with chaos. Yeah. Yes. No. So we've got a bit on timings that's probably worth doing, and there's the obligatory QR code. So get your phones ready so you can scan it and whatever. But the other question that we've had, I think, is what am I going to get? So assume this all works out, and it's very lovely that all your broadcasters are playing nice and all of that. But then what will I get out of it? And the answer to that is it should, because it's a panel and because it has that longer-term stability, all of those worries that you have in, you know, the programmatic ecosystem or whatever, identity stability and can we match on IP addresses, all of that stuff goes away. So you can then what we hope, this might sound arrogant, but what we hope is that it will kind of leapfrog to where the best of outcome measurement is today for advertisers more generally. So, you know, you will have had your friendly neighbourhood platform rep come up to you and say, no, it's all about incrementality now. We need to do control exposed experiments. It will let you do those. If you want to do attribution, it'll do that too, and you can say the percentage of people who saw the ad went on to buy, fine. If you're still playing that game and whatever, and retail media, all those things, that's okay. But then we'll get beyond it to having these bigger learnings. I mean, we did a little toy thing that sort of in the warm-up for this, which we call the hidden value of peak, and we took data from a different panel a company called Viewers Logic, and they have historical data. And there was one of these questions where people say, you know, we all sort of assert in telesales, oh yeah, the peak spots are really good and they have a long-term effect. You know? Yeah, but is that true? Do they really? Let's find out. And you can't do it on an individual brand basis because there's just not enough data. So we took 50 brands that have a very clear online outcome and then looked at the sort of the peak spots versus the daytime spots and so on. In fact, I was on this stage last year talking about this. And we were then able to see, aggregating across those, what is the learning? And it was one of those where I made the analysts do it twice. Because like, the first time it came back, it's like, no, but that's just what they'll expect us to say. They'll expect us to say peak has a longer-term effect, and it's the Duracell bunny of response advertising. We can't do that. It's such a cliche. Do it again. And we did it again. It was still there. We couldn't make the effect go away. And that's just a tiny little toy thing that we did with this POC and then with the thing that goes beyond it. All of those things that you want to know about how telly actually works and the business benefits it creates and the halos onto other channels and so on become tractable. Because at the moment we're in this sort of IPA mindset of, well, I'm going to write a paper about my thing. And yellow fats and I'm, you know, Lurpak and ads work totally differently for Lurpak than they do for Benecol. Do they, fuck? It's just ridiculous. You know, there are these general learnings that, you know, the generation before us used to talk about so much, and, you know, Simon Broadbent, people like that, they were really thinking hard about what can we get at in terms of general learning. And that, for me, is the most exciting bit of this, once we get there. So look, the timeline is this. So we've got the little baby POC happening. We'll surface some results from that in the spring. In the meantime, there'll be an RFI because the research industry is quite keen to hear about this and what we're going to do with it and so on. Then probably over the summer there'll be an RFP, which is a kind of much fuller document, because by then we'll have got the learnings from the POC to say, right, how big does it need to be? Does it need to be 30,000 or 300,000? You know, how big a mortgage Jeff and I and Karin have to go and get to pay for this bloody thing? You know, whatever. Yeah, all of that, we'll figure that out, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, assuming nothing goes wrong, I think we're saying it might, are we saying that? Might be online by 26?
I think we're saying might. I think that's the best we can say. We'll just have to see.
So in the meantime, if you want to stay abreast of news, have a go at scanning that QR code. It will do something weird. It will fire up your email client. It will send an email to Andrew McIntosh, who is the sort of project mastermind for this. He will add you to a list. And then we'll send you sort of gentle updates. We promise not to spam you, no more than one update every few months. And there we go.
Karin, I think we're done, but anything to add to that?
No, I mean, Samir has very eloquently described everything. I suppose my request is, as always with my client hat on, is, you know, advertisers in the room, you know, those representing advertisers, come and talk to us. We are after those great campaigns that we can use to look back on, and Andrew will be inundated, I'm sure, with those. But we want brands that want to come on this journey with us, because it's only useful measuring the outcomes that you need to find out. So that's the important thing. So come with us on this journey. We're very excited about it, as you can tell. So watch this space, scan the QR code, and get the updates.
Very good. Is that, hopefully, that has covered, I know we talked about, last year I talked about the fact that it's incredibly important, but it actually can be really quite dull. But fortunately, Samir and Karin have made, I think, a pretty, the bits of it that I'm interested in are genuinely interesting. I hope you found that. I hope you didn't find it boring. We're just trying to get to a point where we'd really like to discuss in the future of TV things that we are doing and how we're doing it, right? And that was one of the things that I've, over the last 15 years, you know, we've seen a lot of aspiration, but here we're actually really doing something. This is what we're doing, and this is the framework of how we're going to do it, which I hope has been useful to you. This has been quite a big part of my year this year, to actually get it to the point where we're genuinely doing something and making progress. So thank you all for being with us and listening, and thank you guys. And we're 45 seconds ahead of schedule. Thank you very much.